We're going to be going live. Now that that button is up, we are live. So now if you go to that YouTube channel, you will be able to watch the video with the lag. And like I say, it's about 10 seconds that you have on there. So then theoretically, again, I could have hundreds and hundreds of people watching this. They could access that Google Doc, they could ask questions and interact, and we don't overload that bandwidth. We only have 3 locations yet, and you can see those down on the bottom right. So, and again, this is with the Google product, but most of your others all work very similarly. It's just getting to know the program that you use. And I suggest to everybody, if you're going to start using this, practice it. Try to get those people that are really into it and on board with it to practice it with you. And then utilize those people at your different sites. Because there's nothing worse than, and I pick on some of my colleagues since I work in the trade and industry and tech and engineering, I work with some gentlemen that have a hard time getting that power button under control on their computers. It's that rough. I'm not going to ask one of them to do this. I mean, it's just absolutely horrible. But I also have somebody else that's in that department that is really tight on computer technology. And so I will go to him and run through how we do this. I'll do a couple of practice meetings with him, and then we'll integrate it and use it for a PLC. Now, one of the nice things that you can do then, when we start talking about this time and building schedules and locations, ideally what I like to do is do a hangout like this once a month. And I talked about that agenda earlier that I use with my boss all the time. Have an agenda. Have that open and available to your colleagues at all times. It's nice to start just a Google folder for your department and organize that, but have those agendas in there for your meetings. And everybody, okay, maybe you set it up that we're going to do these different things during our 3 weeks at our individual buildings, and we're on our 4th week, and we do a meeting and discuss what work we got done, what things we need to change, et cetera, then we can make that next step. Maybe you're working on common assessments, maybe you're working on developing an activity for a Spanish class, you know, whatever it is, you can set up, and you don't have to always be face-to-face to continue having a PLC. And I think that's one of the things that our discussions have been a lot, is how do we still effectively communicate together to accomplish these things when we know we can't put 12 people from 3 different buildings in the same place, sometimes even more than once a month. Once a month is hard sometimes. So how do we do that? And so this is a potential tool. And to be honest, I really like using Google Docs and or Sheets. I mean, depending on what you're doing, we use Docs heavier than half. That's probably our go-to with most stuff. But then that allows you to play in this world as well. So now, again, this is all recording. I'm going to show you a couple of more function parts of this. And it's a little bit of time to have some discussion, record some of your answers. We'll do a little bit of share out. And I'm going to have you guys try to make some calls to each other and play around with the program a little bit. It worked the other 2 sessions that I gave. So I was pretty excited. I've also been excited because I am on Wi-Fi right now, and this is still working decent. And it has through this whole tech camp, which is probably on the technology end, the one huge recommendation: plug the blue wire into your computer. Plug it in, plug it in, plug it in, plug it in. Avoid Wi-Fi if you can when you're using this stuff. Because the bandwidth issues that we have, you'll start getting glitchy, it'll drop calls on you. When you're hardwired, it's pretty rare you have any problems. You start adding more than maybe 5 people into this, and you're not hardwired, it'll totally crash on you, most of the time. You can, 5 to 10 people you can squeeze in there if everybody's hardwired. From the experience we've had in the schools around here playing, you get more than a handful, 10 people tops. I think it'll let you do 15. It starts to get a little bit sketchy on you. So, you know, the less people you can have log into it, the better off you really are. So a couple of the other features with it that become really important, we're talking about that back channel concept. When you have that moderator in the room, I can also use this chat function. So you guys can click on that chat button up there as well, and you guys can make comments. So if I, as the presenter, am working from this location, somebody has a question in one of these guys' room, they can type it in there if they want, and then I can answer it and say, "It's nice to see you too today, Sean." You know, then you can attack those little side things. And again, that's back channel. That's a way to do things that are not the primary mode of delivery. Okay, when you start teaching classes, if you get to that point ever, you start teaching some online classes and you utilize video conferencing, this chat thing is huge. Because there is nothing worse than being in a room, and of course, you know, some different software too sometimes helps, but being in a room where you've got 30 people hooked into this thing and everybody's trying to get your attention and say something, and you're in a room that's full of students already. I mean, it can really get overwhelming really fast. And that's where, again, having that moderator comes in. If people that are remote can ask their questions this way, it does make it flow better. You know, we're able to look at what they have. Is it easier than revisiting the Google Doc? I think it is with the people that are interacting. I would much rather use the chat because it pops right up on the screen for me right there. I don't have to swing back past my computer and look at how's my research going. Not where I need to be with it. Coming up on our June 8th date. So, you know, that is easier, but that's only going to be with the people that you have interacted. And so if you're doing like a room-to-room type conferencing, this works really well because you guys are each going to be in that room with those people. You can be having that little side discussion and just type in the questions. Probably works better than the Google Doc. If you're going to have a lot of people, I'll a lot of times run both of them. And that way, if they have things that they maybe don't want to answer right away, but you just want to get it noted or added to an agenda, or you know, if you don't want to lose that thought, they can record it there, and it's not going to be necessarily the thing that you direct. So there's a lot of personal preference in it. There really is. The other main thing with this that really becomes a big deal and makes it nice is the screen share function. Being able to show people what it is I'm talking about. So we're in this meeting. I'm putting stuff up on the whiteboard. If I go in and I'm talking about those questions, I love my extended screen some days. I lose my mouse. So I come in, I want to talk to you guys about these questions, so I'm going to bring this over and leave it tabbed down. The people on screen in the remote location are not seeing this right now. Even though you guys are, they're not seeing it because I'm projecting it to you, but I'm not recording it. I don't have a camera in the back of the room seeing this. So what's going in the recording right now as I'm talking, if you watch this later, you're still just going to see this room. And I'm going to be talking about this document. And this is always a fun one because all of a sudden you'll start seeing things up on your chat all the time. I can't see it, I can't see it, I can't see it. Then you go, ah, crap, I forgot. So, yeah, another nice thing with the chat. People can make you aware when you make this kind of goof up. So instead, I'll leave that popped out here. Instead, what I want to do when I'm going to put documents up here for my presentation, I want to use the screen share. So now I can go in, I have it pop. Discussions and share this out. So now everybody's seeing this. You see it up on the board. It's a little bit smaller, not quite as clean as the document. What I would do at this point then is I would now bring this back out for you guys, and we would utilize it here, but everything that got typed in and done is now showing up for those people. Okay, sometimes just the administration of this gets kind of, you need practice. You just need practice and to kind of bobble through it. So now my screen sharing stopped on me. when I moved it, because I went from window to window, so I probably shouldn't have done that. So let's go back to it for a minute. So now I could go in and work in this from here, even though you can't see it as well. So now my students on screen are seeing the same thing. Let me get rid of that. And there we go. So now I can respond then to the question on there as well.
What is your button up there that says present to everyone? And stop.
Okay, so now if I use that instead of the screen share, now it's going to kick that document to your screen.
Okay, so all that I see then is that document.
Then all you see is that document. So I can kick that document to individuals. I don't tend to use it as much because I know I start clicking too many buttons and it causes me trouble.
Right,
trying to get back and forth and yada yada. I struggle with it personally. I'm not saying don't use it. My brain just isn't wired well enough to not have problems with that some days. So that screen sharing gets to be a really huge thing as well. So I'm going to go in, get my mouse back over here, stop my screen share. So now it goes back to my camera again. And again, that screen share gets to be huge. It's even when you have everybody else in a remote location on the document, you might end up wanting to talk about something that's on a website. So instead of having everybody pull it up, I know I've done this before, so I know how screwy it gets to be. I've sat on a phone with someone, and we've both been on the same website trying to explain to each other where to go and what to look at, and you almost feel like you're stupid as they're trying to tell you where to go. And we're all educated people, and it really makes you feel dumb because it's a lot harder to understand when you don't visually see it. And so utilizing that screen share through this type of call really helps when you're having those types of discussions. So for the next 10 minutes, I would like you guys to break into groups of probably 3 people and have a little bit of discussion about where you see this being used, where you could use it, maybe some other ideas, and then some advantages and disadvantages that you can see to utilizing something like this. And then have somebody in your group record that on that Word document that is shared to Google Classroom. So make sure you guys break into your groups that you have somebody that's in that Google Classroom. Or do you want me to assign you groups?
I was going to say, who has it? I don't have it.
Okay. Amber, I'm going to stick you with those guys. And then Liz, I'm going to bounce you back with those 2. Then I'll bring Judy up here with these guys. Then we have somebody in each group that has it. We'll take 10 minutes or so, just kind of have a discussion, record those things, and then we're going to come back and share out a little bit about what you guys discussed. And I'm going to leave this running and recording throughout this whole process. So you can.
What is your YouTube channel?
Just Ryan Pierce. I should look at it.
Because I'd like to see what it's.
Okay. Let me do it this way.
Because that I can access.
Yep. My channel.
I'll just hang out for that.
All right, what's your email address?
Jason.triplett, 2 T's at the end.
TRIPLETT. Jason Triplett at what? They don't even give you a school with that? Yeah. All right. So you should get an email that has a link right to this.
Thank you.
And that's right to the video and And you go to the channel from there if you want, but that is our class video.
I've now,
That's right.
Washington
staff.
Well, and I would use that.
Gives the screen share document. I always give you that position too, I wouldn't document.
Oh, no.
Is that same screen?
I would approach it the other way, whereas like you're saying, when you get that Friday when the tractions are gone, the golfers are gone, the speech is gone, the
They
FFA,
collectively,
you know, that would be
no, I'm in mine.
where I could be able to use this
There's 3
more than PLC.
So it's been good for professional development. Yes.
I know
I got it.
excessively, we do huge things.
I think you can get it because you don't have the screen. So even though I can leave, I just don't.
Oh, I see what you got that.
Yeah, okay. Anything else we'd want to do?
Oh, yeah.
We talked about virtual learning on some across border, state, country, world, using classrooms, just I haven't, I honestly, for 8 months.
I think that would be great for the
Classroom, schools, everything.
People watch the playback.
Classes.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, these should be, these are all safe, so then you can go back and watch this.
I've seen this, unfortunately, used in classrooms.
So for the live, we should ask questions.
For students. I also like to say,
At least let's
Get something out of it.
yeah.
So Ryan, if they ask questions
Mhm.
and say I watch it later, do I see the questions? In your
Mm,
brain?
Not unless I pull the questions up and show the question. I mean, you would have to kind of take those pictures and pull the questions up, share them on the screen so they work, and then you could answer them, you know, which is a great way to do it. You know, especially if you're giving a class, you know, versus like a PLC, if I were giving a class.
What you could do if you're recording, just read the question.
Yeah, well, I would.
Yep, you can just read them and say, here's somebody's question, after they're asking. Yep.
It's somebody so happy you use like.
And like I said, that's what's nice with the chat feature, if you have that room moderator, where students can ask a question, they can throw it up in the chat, and they will show up in that chat. So if you're not using that, it's not.
Probably good for students, but obviously.
When you do the live ones, you do a lot of different people. Now, I got a buddy on the snake extension, and I turn them on using this.
Oh, the
Because
kids,
you can get all those
Not
hours
little
to
take
You know, I mean, that was really interesting. Because it's different locations, and show some of this stuff and some of the things we were seeing, technologies, and that it's easier to do something like this, get a couple of guys that are tech savvy. You know, because there are some of those guys out there in your farms that are tech savvy.
Oh, yeah.
Get them involved, have some discussions with those guys, and then just kick that video out to, you know, I've seen him do it where he'll have his wife sitting there with the phone. And those old guys will be watching this, they can get into YouTube and they can make that part of it, and they'll sit and call Mari and ask her questions.
To a meeting, which maybe would be needed in the PLC,
And then he'll answer the questions.
on courtesy.
So I mean, it doesn't have to be necessarily a Word document, I mean, they've done it with their phone.
At least everything else, it's.
Is that?
Does it work with PowerPoint transition
Slides,
slides?
say something.
Yeah, you can,
This one's.
it's, to me, it's a little messy. There's just too much memory, and there's too much lag. It's just like trying to show a video. If I try to show a video through this, it's funky. It gets real funky. Choppy on you. You're better off if you want them to watch the video. Just say, hey, go to this link and watch the video after the class, or you know whatever. Much
They're
better
embarrassed.
way to do it.
It's not recorded.
How about things from the cloud, is that,
That stuff works pretty well.
okay, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I think-
Yeah, if you use Drive videos, and I'll just show you that since you guys asked it. If you want to show videos and you want to use YouTube videos, as long as they're on there, there is a function for adding a YouTube video to this that it will play seamlessly, and it won't give you guff.
that would be
So,
very nice.
yep, if you do want to show a video using this, make sure it's on YouTube. And then you can just search it on here and it'll play, because obviously YouTube via Google's, they've got it all you know, it's seamless.
Ryan,
You were just in that office next.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's how. That was when I looked at that, make YouTube.
Yep, if you made the YouTube video and put it on there.
we're going to show a video in the class, recording it on your class that day, so you can not only practice it, would you play the YouTube video via
Share with people that weren't able to.
through here instead of just out on your?
If I wanted them to see it, and I was gonna show the class as well,
Yeah.
I would probably just show it on,
Okay.
you know, because like I say, if you use the YouTube function in here, and you don't, if you try to pull up YouTube in another browser window, and then screen share that, and there's so much lag and problem there, but that's why they integrated this. And so you just go in, you hit OK here, and it lets you search your video. I think it lets you put the share URL in, and then it'll pop it up, and you can play it. And then record it.
Is that, I don't have that on my, is that an app that has to be added to that?
It's because you started the conversation on that.
It may.
It has a lot of.
Yeah, if you're logged in, I have this stuff and you wouldn't, but you're not logged in.
Oh, no.
If you go right down here to the bottom, to these three little buttons, it should come up if you click that Add Apps.
I started my own here just to get it up and going.
Did you do the broadcast or the hangout?
I have no
Yeah,
idea.
you're in the broadcast. So you're in the broadcast.
I guess for this class.
Why? There should be more apps available than this. Is this your personal account?
Uh,
Yeah, but that's.
Yeah, but it's still, it's my
Yeah.
school
We're
account.
jumping out.
Yep.
Questions around the stage and everything.
Because they should be there.
Is in classroom or students are attending.
Because I'm not seeing your little tab button either.
Different personal developments.
No,
And maybe general information.
I'm maxed out. I'm just not as
Tell me about
solid
it.
on it.
Tell me, I know.
And that could be the issue too, because this is in the
It's
Mac
just,
browser.
Okay.
And I'm guessing that's what the problem is. If you add the Chrome browser to this, you can add a Chrome browser on that. If you put that in, then hopefully they should show up. But I'm guessing that's what the issue is.
Okay.
Now, we were talking about that in that office mix, you know, if you log in with Internet Explorer versus Chrome, there were other options available. So yeah, try it because it should be there.
And, you know, yeah, like I said, I'll play around with it.
Yep.
Is it a car or is it SUV?
You guys ready to do some sharing out from your groups?
We're ready.
I think everybody, always wait until I hear those conversations start to. Yeah, exactly. All right, since we're on new cars, what kind of new car you buying?
Murano.
Should go Ford.
I
Should
get to
always
go
be
pick it
Ford.
up soon as like
Isn't that exciting?
leave, so.
There's nothing better than a
I'm
new
sitting
car.
close to the
I'm
door
sorry.
if I run. I'm excited.
But that's why. All right, so I need to kick back out of this. There we go. Just then I lost it when I did that. All right, so if you guys just want to, by group, kind of share out what it is that you came up with through your discussions.
Well, we talked about the possibility of using this to do virtual hangouts, like connect with other classrooms around the state or the country, the world. And then we also talked about the application of using it when kids are, you know, providing them what was done in class that day.
And I think that's the big thing. It's the whole concept is, you know, we build it as the PLC concept because it also fits with the research I'm doing right now. But really, it's a communication tool. And we actually, through our engineering courses, this is part of what we teach. And we have students do projects where we'll put North students and South students together. And this is what they have to use to communicate. They never enter a room together. Everything is done virtually. So we get into, it's a little funky with our Autodesk CAD programs, but we get into file sharing and meeting this way where, you know, 'cause I'm sorry, if you go out and you get a job for John Deere, you're going to be working with somebody in Korea on a design project. That's the way it works now. Mexico is a huge supplier of parts and stuff in the ag industry. You know, so no longer are we necessarily in rooms and buildings together. And so, you know, student projects, school to school, is one that I personally would love to see happening more and more. How about you guys?
Well, our group felt that this would be very good for professional development and general information. However, we learned that there may be a privacy concern with Hangout on Air because people may be more reserved in a meeting situation because it's filmed and then on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe some student privacy issues as well.
Okay, and the privacy issues are a good one. The nice thing about it, if I go into my YouTube account, and even when I started this, I don't have to make it public if I don't want it live. Okay, if I want it live, I have to go public. But if I don't want it live and I just want it to record, I can do that initially when I invited people. I could take that public off of there. It'll still record it, but it will then take it off of that live feed. So it depends on what you want to do with it. And the privacy end of it, you know, even if you kick it out there on the live end of things, you can always change those privacies afterwards. You know, from that perspective, I think as we keep going forward, that's one that's been brought up in every one of the sessions. What if I don't want to be recorded? What if I don't want my information, what I talk about, put out there? And, you know, that definitely can become an issue sometimes. When you take, like, say, your college courses, and you're doing online ones, you sign the waiver, or you're not taking the class. You know, I mean, there's some of that goes with it. And again, you don't have to even record them. I know, like, a lot of the meetings that we do, because we don't really care if the meeting itself is archived. We have our running document with our agenda and our notes. We don't need our meeting archived. So we use the Hangouts and not the broadcast. You know, this is what I use when I want to record things. If I don't want to record it, I don't use the broadcast.
With Hangouts, the options though, right? I mean, do you have the option to share your screen?
Yep. It's all there. Yep. The only
for years and didn't know that.
Yeah. The only real difference is the recording and live part. Okay. Otherwise, they should functionally be the same. And there is one with the broadcast as well, though, where if you set the event up, because you can set an event up where this will email out to people and they can just click on the link and come in and join. I didn't really go that far into today's discussion, but that option is there, and there's a comment section that goes with it if people want to pre-ask questions and stuff to help lead your discussion, where they can go through like Google Plus and you send them notifications, and I don't typically step quite that far into it. I know for what I use it for, that goes a little beyond what I would do. Stuff in there. What'd you guys?
Students are absent, and for reviewing for tests instead of coming in. You said before after school?
For AP testing especially.
Mm-hmm. I know that's one I like to use. I keep a link on my Google Classroom with my students. Once you start a Hangout, and of course this is going from broadcast to Hangout, but once you start a Hangout, it has a permanent link for that. So you can always go back to that same one. If you give your students that link through there, you can go in and out, and they can send you an email and say, hey, can we sit down and chat for 15 minutes at 11:30? Sure. They go on the classroom site, they hit that permanent link, I hit that permanent link, and now we're talking, and we're face to face. So I'll use it for like student conferencing and stuff too sometimes.
So it keeps the link in Hangout, like it shows you previous conversations, and you can go back and is that what you're saying?
No, it's that conversation. It's so basically this call. It's just a permanent link to the same call. I don't understand the programming structure well enough, but it basically saves this spot so that I can kick that to other people, and then it's like giving me a phone number. where when they call it, I can go into that same one, we can all go back into that same one in and out. And then students can use it with each other as well then for conversations.
So they don't have to read.
Yep, so they don't have to do a new one every single time, and they can all just go back into that one spot, click on it, and if somebody's already in there, you know, say 5 kids want to talk about something today, the first one goes in there, the second one comes in, another one joins from somewhere else, and they can all sit and have a conversation. So another neat little feature with it. Great insight. I love it. And I do thank you guys for listening to me go through this presentation. I like this stuff. I have a lot of fun with it. And I always like it when somebody wants to learn a little bit about it. So as we're kind of winding down into the last part of the day, and I'm on the end that when everybody's ready to fly, you just fly at the end of the day. But if you want to take some time and just try to do some calls with each other, and of course you don't have to be in the classroom or anything, you just need each other's Google email addresses, and just try to do some calling back and forth, try to set up the broadcast, try to do a hangout, just kind of play around with it a little bit. Give you some time to do that as we kind of wrap up. And again, I thank you guys for entertaining me today. And then I'll stop this so then we don't have to keep